One of the things we don't talk about a lot in Warzone is hipfire. And I know a lot of times the conversations go around time to kill and ease of use and things like that. But when it comes down to it, one of the things you should never forget about in Warzone is hipfire and the ability to get into combat as quickly as possible. When it comes to the current meta, the PPSH rose to power primarily because its hipfire was so disgustingly strong. Today, I brought you some more builds that are just as equally disgusting, if not more disgusting in some ways than others, in hipfire. So, what we're going to look at here is 4 different SMGs that are currently as good, if not better, than the PPSH in hipfire regards. The first one we have up here is the Sten. The Sten is a SMG that features also Gung-ho, which, if you're not familiar with Gung-ho, Gung-ho is a perk that allows you to sprint while firing. So you're going to see while I'm running around with the Sten, I can fire, and I'm still moving at sprinting speeds, which is kind of disgusting. Now, with that being said, I am currently using the 36-round magazine for it. I would say if you are concerned with missing shots, you might be better off with sticking with the 50-round mag, as the Sten actually has the lowest hipfire spread of all the SMGs in the game. The PPSH sits at about a 1.6 degree spread, which this isn't going to mean much if you're not a numbers person, but if you are a numbers person, then you'll know that that isn't very much. But this build on the Sten actually sits at a 0.9 degree spread, which is utterly disgusting, which means less than 1 degree from center where the bullet will go compared to where you are aiming with hipfire. If you are on keyboard and mouse, this makes it even more disgusting because keyboard and mouse is a little bit easier to control hipfire, as it is a little less reliable hipfiring on controller until you're used to using them for that exact thing. So I recommend the Sten. At the end of the video, I'm going to have all the builds here for you so you can see them and be worth seeing. The second one we've got is the Marco. The Marco I was running today, and the Marco is also another extremely disgustingly strong hipfire build, as it is a build that has a lot of bullets. It fires fast, and it's extremely reliable on its accuracy. Also, featuring Gung-ho. Again, Gung-ho allows you to run around real fast while firing, get yourself out of the sticky, and just keep firing. Keep running through enemies, just like you saw there. Now, with that being said, we have 2 more. Of course, like I said before, the Marco and the Sten both feature Gung-ho, so it does make them a little bit more reliable. But we're just going to go ahead and blow ourselves up here so that we can get over here to the second set. So the second set that we have here are the Wellgun and the RA225. The Wellgun actually fell out of favor pretty heavily because it just did not keep up with the TTK change. But it turns out the Wellgun actually has a really, really good hipfire set, which is odd because considering everything else it fell behind on, did not expect the hipfire to be the build that resurfaced. But it is, because it also has access to Gung-ho. So if you're not catching on yet, Gung-ho is kind of disgustingly strong, and I recommend using it whenever possible because mobility and hipfire combined make for some really, really quick, really fast takeouts or takedowns while also keeping yourself out of the fight. The last one that we have access to, though, is the RA225. Now, the RA225 does not have Gung-ho, so it unfortunately falls short on that. And then secondly, the RA225 does not have a very good hipfire magazine. The hipfire magazine on the thing is actually disgustingly small. So you actually have to pair this one together with a, you have to actually pair it together with the sleight of hand perk, because otherwise you're going to run into a lot of issues. So it is a hit or miss on the RA. If you're looking for a way to run the RA, though, I do recommend it because it is a lot of fun. The hipfire build on it feels fun. It plays well. I'm about to get blown up by my own ammo box there. That about sucked. But I kind of wanted to use it as an honorable mention because the RA, despite being pretty good, it actually doesn't get a lot of love currently. And so it's an alternate build also to check out. The 3 I probably recommend are the Sten, Marco, and Wellgun, as they all feature Gung-ho. And so Gung-ho mixed with hipfire, mixed with movement abilities, especially if you are a very good stim user. I'm not very good with stims. I forget to use them frequently, get myself killed, stuff like that. Not very reliable for me, but a lot of the other people are big fans of the stim. And if you are good with the stim and good with hipfire and good with Gung-ho, you can find yourself a wonderful home in these 3 different rifles. I have somebody near me and I don't see him. But you know what? Let's go ahead and get over to the builds so that way you can kind of see what we're working with here. One of the reasons, again, why the PPSH rose to power is because hipfire right now is basically getting rid of about 300, 400 milliseconds in most combats. A lot of the guns, especially guns like the Type 100 that sits at like 560 milliseconds time to kill, they run into the issue that most of those builds are for ADS. And the ADS buffer for a lot of AR or a lot of SMGs in this game are around 180 to 300 milliseconds. And then if you've been sprinting, sprint to fire out times are somewhere between 200 to 250 milliseconds as well. Which, if you're doing the math, that's somewhere between 370 and 500 milliseconds for any given combat for when you notice somebody to when you ADS and actually start firing. Guns with Gung-ho pretty much remove the sprint to fire time, pretty much. It's mostly like removing most of the debuff, and then you're no longer ADSing as well. So a lot of times you're cutting out about 500 milliseconds at the beginning of combat, half a second at the beginning of combat before you start firing, normally, to now being removed. So these hipfire builds are actually going to be extremely useful. Like I said, though, if you're using the Sten, if you're not used to the hipfires, you can actually go up to the 50-round drum on that one, and it actually still maintains one of the, actually it is still the tightest hipfire spread at 1.05 degrees, which means less than 1 degree, or just barely over 1 degree of spread, which means if you're within 10, 15 meters, you're still going to hit them for almost the entire mag. It's actually extremely surprising. But the 36-round mag, if you are really good at hipfire and you just really want the strongest you can get, the 36-round 7.62 mag is probably your best bet. But here is the Sten. You'll see recoil booster. Almost every one of them are going to run very similar attachments. That's going to be the Steady, the M1915 Steady, which offers the most hipfire ability for a underbarrel. The Pine Tar, which again provides the most hipfire benefit for the rear grip. And then most of them are going to run quick as well. If they have them, Gung-ho is a perk to go. And then it just really comes down to building the hipfire and speed rate of fire attachments other than that. And then I've put the 2.5 on all of them. Obviously, you pick a sight that works for you, whether you want to use an iron sight, no sight, a slate reflector, whatever, for whatever you want ADS in. But a little known fact, the 2.5 actually does recoil reduction. So you can actually use that to help tame in some of the recoil you're going to get from running these hipfire builds, just in case you need ADS. Up next, we have the Marco here. Again, we're running the Steady, the Pine Tar, and Quick. This one also with Gung-ho. The Nambu actually has a hipfire accuracy bonus. Super useful. We're running recoil booster to get ourselves the fastest rate of fire and subsonic on all of them to stay off the minimap. Again, the 2.5 on all of them as well. The Body 285 does hipfire recovery and recoil recovery. Super useful, again, for this build. And then the Body Folding, which is a hipfire build. Now, if you decide you want to just go all in on point-blank combat, the Marco is a little bit special as it provides you also the access to Akimbo, the only SMG from the Vanguard Academy, Vanguard game that offers Akimbo. But know that it will remove your M1915 Steady, and so your hipfire accuracy is actually going to be a little bit worse. Although it does say it does increase your hipfire accuracy, you do run into some other downsides as well. So if you're going to run Akimbo on the Marco, do make sure you've got yourself a very reliable AR. Something that does mid to long and even maybe close to, just in case you don't have time to swap it out, as the Kimbo is gonna really reel in your range on this. I don't think you really need it. I think Gung-ho with this build right here is strong enough to not have to worry about it. Then we're gonna get down here to the Wellgun. Wellgun's gonna be building something similar. 1915 Pine Tar, subsonic, and 40 round. My light just kicked on beside me. Again, running the hipfire accuracy, both barrel and stock, and then the Gung-ho perk. And then the final one is the RA225. Like I said before, the sleight of hand is pretty much necessary. The 7.62 Grinko one right here actually increasing your fire rate, recoil control, movement speed, ADS speed, All of that is super important. If you run the 55 millimeter mag, you are going to run into a significantly less reliable hipfire. So instead of being 10 to 15 meters out for the hipfire, you're going to have to be like 7 to 10. So this one does cut down your range if you change it out, but you also maybe need the extra bullets. I know I do for most combat because I tend to be a potato sometimes. But otherwise, if you can run the 7.62 Greenco 30 round mag, it is the better one out of all of them. But thank you guys and ladies and gentlemen, all of you for watching the video. I do appreciate you. We are here 7 days a week. 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, doing this live on stream, and then we also make videos for you here every day to try to help you improve your gameplay. Maybe find some hidden gems you hadn't realized before, because meta's boring, right? But thank you all so much for checking out. We'll be back at it again tomorrow morning for the stream at 9 a.m. and then, of course, videos every day here at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you all so much for checking out the video. If you enjoyed it, drop a like, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else, peace.